development, because for them, what they may view as development is to put a road there. For them, that is a priority. Obviously, there are also other issues like building schools. We are doing that. We are also building clinics or health centers. Our focus has been also to put up the skills training institution there, because we don't have. So we are exporting a lot of our children to either Luapula and Luapula province, which is Mansa, and Kasama, which is in the northern province. So we want to see a situation where we have our own skills training center in the district or in the constituency. Apart from that, we're also looking at sports facilities. We have a lot of talent in those constituencies like mine, but I think what they are lacking are facilities. So we are also looking at how best we can try to put up even a small multi-sports facility in the constituency, so that a lot of our young people will be able to use that facility and be able to be identified as potential footballers, potential athletes. So I think those are some of the issues that we are looking at. Most importantly, we do not have a hospital that we can call a hospital. Yes, there's a hospital there, but I think it could be level 1, and we have a lot of people now in Kaputa district. So we need a very big hospital so that we lessen on referring our patients to Kasama, which is about 400 kilometers. On the other side, the other hospital, which is near to us, is about 150 kilometers. So we do have a lot of challenges in terms of patients. When they are referred, sometimes they die along the way. So I think that is also a very big challenge. Yeah, there are also other important issues that we may look at, but I think Rome was not built in a day. There are these issues of roads, issues of infrastructure development. I think for us, these are some of the important issues that we need to work on. In fact, some of them even before rain season, especially the roads, before the rain season, we should make sure that we do these roads. And looking forward now to government to ensuring that we are given a paved road, which will really assist us in terms of getting the raw materials, because we also have gotten into farming. And I think we have a lot of rice there. There is Kaputa rice, which we need also to explore. We have also ground nuts, maize now is being also, we have fish because of Lake Mweru and Tipa. So there's a lot that we have in our district, but because of the roads that are impassable, it is very difficult for people to trade. So those are some of the issues that we need to look at. The word of hope. Obviously, we were voted on the ticket of change, first and foremost, and we're going to do just that. The hope that I've continued giving the people of Kaputa is that they voted the right people, starting with the president himself, the vice president, who is also heading from that same area. We have now a member of parliament who is also a minister. So we should not have a reason at the end of the day not to develop that particular area, especially that we have the vice president who comes from there. I'm coming from there. The president has been there also and promised people that they will have some changes when we run. These are some of the promises that we are trying to fulfill. So let them just continue having that trust in us, and I believe that by 2026 they will have a lot of changes in Kaputa. And if we are given another mandate, definitely Kaputa will never be the same. A lot of things will change. That's what we are looking for. So them also, I should also plead to them to make sure that we work together, because all these developmental projects that we are about to undertake, and some of them we've already started undertaking them, we can't do them ourselves as member of parliament or the vice president or the president. We need them to join hands with us so that we work together, and then we'll be able to see a change that we've been looking for in Kaputa constituency.
I'm Kapelwa Mbagweta, Member of Parliament for Nkeyema. I went to school for my primary school in Sefula. Then I went to the Sheke Secondary School, then to the University of Zambia. After completing at the University of Zambia at that time, we had the one holding company called Zimco. I started working at Zesco, where I spent most of my time, I think around 10 years. Then I was transferred to Zambia State Insurance. From Zambia State Insurance, I was transferred to Zimco head office, where I stayed until Zimco went into voluntary liquidation as a result of a political decision by the government then. From that time, I went into the private sector. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for a number of years. Then I went to NAPSA, where I was the first director of human resources in the transform the National Provident Fund. After that, I retired, became a full-time consultant, and also on the sidelines, a politician. This is my second term. I was first elected in 2016-2021. I'm married with 5 children. The people in Nkeyema are farmers. As a matter of fact, Nkeyema is the breadbasket of Western Province, second only or probably at par with Kaoma. And so we do a lot of farming there. And in the future, after we've done all the basics, we will be applying some of the CDF to productive activities. Productive activities in the sense that you buy tractors and that sort of thing. So the enhanced CDF is the icing on the cake, because in Nkeyema, we have 4 ways of bringing development to the people. Firstly, through central government. Secondly, through CDF now. Thirdly, through corporates and the international non-governmental organizations. Of course, the enhanced CDF means that all of a sudden, we've been able to do so many things which we never imagined. So, for example, from the infrastructure side, last year we had the 16 projects, and we have 8 wards, which means 2 projects per ward. And if we add up projects also by the partners, would be in a year in the region of 20, 30 projects at a go. Obviously, the enhanced CDF has enabled us to do a lot of things, including the skills development, which would not have imagined possible. In the rural areas, unlike the towns or line of rail, people or students can appreciate the CDF, unlike maybe in Lusaka, because everywhere they go, they can see and feel the presence of the government in terms of addressing their needs. And so we are grateful for this opportunity, in effect, to deliver on all things that are possible and have been made possible. And of course, in Nkeyema, we are slightly luckier than other constituencies because some of the partners, like World Vision, like WaterAid, are bringing projects to us which will reduce substantially on some of the money we would have spent through CDF. So, for example, by bringing maternity annex to our health centers, by bringing water and sanitation arrangements to a number of schools, and so that has reduced on what we would have done, which means now we'll be even able to do much better than we would have imagined. So we are very thankful for what those institutions are doing.
On the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
For a matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
Thank you for joining us once again here on Parliament Television. As business will resume in a few minutes from now, the House has just been considering some government bills and at first reading stage, and these include the Competition and Consumer Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2023. It has passed the first reading stage. The other bill that was considered on the floor of the House is the Defence Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023.
Exactly, Claudette, and also the other bill that has passed the first reading stage is the Marriage Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2023. We also had the Judicial Training Institute of Zambia Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2023.
And still to come is a presentation of the Zambia Institute of Marketing Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2023, which seeks to amend the Zambia Institute of Marketing Act 2022. After presentation of those bills, still to come is a motion that is going to be moved. Just now we take you to the...
Madam Speaker.
Live pictures are coming your way, and as soon as a quorum is constituted, business will resume. 1/3 of members of Parliament need to be present in the House in order for business to be transacted. And like we mentioned earlier, there is consideration of some government bills. Still to come is consideration of the Zambia Institute of Marketing Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2023. We also expect the chairperson of the Committee on Parastatal Bodies, Mr. Kambita, to move a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Parastatal Bodies, on the report of the Auditor General, on the accounts of parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 21st July 2023.
Exactly, Claudette. We also expect the Human Rights Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2023, to come up at third reading. Just like we had mentioned earlier, when business was interrupted on Friday, this bill was under consideration. Then we do expect the Zambia Institute of Valuation Surveyors Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2023, to also come up for third reading.
And so that's the business that is yet to be transacted on the floor of the House as we await for a quorum to be constituted, and that will signify the remainder of business to be transacted on the floor of the House. We did see Madam Speaker render a ruling earlier on a point of order raised on Thursday, 29th June 2023 by Mr. R.K.H. Totela, Member of Parliament for Pambashe Constituency, against Honorable S. Masebo, MP, Minister of Health, for allegedly imputing improper motives against him. So a brief of that particular ruling will be given to you a little later.
Order, honorable members. When business was suspended The Honorable Minister of Justice had just finished presenting National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2023. Next presentation, the presentation of Government Bill, the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Zambia Institute of Marketing Amendment NAB 15 of 2023. The objective of the bill is to amend the Zambia Institute of Marketing Act 2022 so as to harmonize the Act with the Zambia Institute of Public Relations Communication Act 2022. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Let the bill be read the first time.
The Zambia Institute of Marketing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2023.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House in due course. Honorable members who wish to make submissions on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Notice of motion, the Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Parastatal Bodies, on the report of the Auditor General, on the accounts of parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 20th July 2023.
Is the motion seconded? Is the motion seconded? The committee chair.
Stand up. Yes.
Who's that one?
It's not working.
Is the motion seconded?
Stand up.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I seconded.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Ron. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Parastatal Bodies, on the report of the Auditor General, on the accounts of parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, for the second session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Friday, 21st July 2023. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with its terms of reference, as contained in the standing orders, the committee considered the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, and has the rare honor and privilege to present its findings before the House. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that 23 entities were cited in the report of the Auditor General, considered by the committee in order to acquaint itself with the queries cited in the audit report. The committee interacted with various controlling officers who tendered both written and oral submissions before it. Madam, I am aware that members of this august House have already perused through the committee's report. On that premise, I will endeavor to highlight only a few pertinent issues that emanated from the committee's deliberations. Madam Speaker, the revelation of the weaknesses in the procurement of goods and services at the Electoral Commission of Zambia is unprecedented. The committee finds it extremely worrying that during the period under review, the Commission signed several contracts for the procurement of various goods, works, and services in amounts in excess of $26 million, which had shortcomings in complying with the Public Procurement Act and the procurement regulations. These shortcomings include the failure to sign contracts, the failure to obtain contract clearance from Attorney General's office, and the delayed delivery of procured goods, among other irregularities. The committee contends that it is evident from the revelation that systems at the Commission have considerably collapsed. Further, the failure by the controlling officer to proactively institute disciplinary action against the erring officers has contributed to the perpetual misconduct of the officers in the Commission. The committee is further concerned that the Commission seems to be enduring these procurement irregularities on account of the general elections being an emergency, a situation which the committee finds highly unacceptable, especially that the Commission has adequate time to plan for the general elections. The committee in this regard reminds the controlling officer that even in the most urgent emergency circumstances, the Public Procurement Act and the procurement regulations should be adhered to at all times. Therefore, anyone found abrogating them should be disciplined. Madam Speaker, the committee further implores the controlling officer to expeditiously consider the recommendations by it on further investigation of contracts that the committee believes border on fraud. The committee will follow the matters rigorously to their logical conclusion in the best interest of the nation. Madam Speaker, allow me to yet again share with this Honorable House the disturbing revelations on questionable payments under the Food Reserve Agency, particularly the contract with Advanced African Solutions, ADAS, of $73 million for the design, building, and rehabilitation of 98 grain storage sheds. Madam, the government incurred a penalty sum of $52 million on the advance payment of this contract, $9.3 million on certified works. However, the committee observes with concern that this contract is highly exploitative to the government, especially on the provisions that pertain to interest charges on delayed payments. The committee further finds it irregular that the contractor was paid over and above the certified works of $9.2 million, verified and endorsed by the Food Reserve Agency. It is in this regard that the committee recommends that a forensic audit be undertaken on this contract. The committee will keenly await a progress report on this matter. Madam, while at the face of it, the Tropical Disease Research Center, TDRC, is viewed as a small statutory body. However, the financial irregularities as reviewed by the audit report are extremely disturbing.
Order, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Chama South. You are forming another caucus there. We want to listen to the committee report. Is it possible maybe you walk out, do your caucus outside, or you join us in listening to the report for the sake of your people? The Honorable Member for Zambezi East, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The House should note that during the period under review, TDRC paid 66,000 kwacha to a supplier based in Ukraine for the supply and delivery of 4,000 reams of A4 bond paper, with a delivery period of 28 days from date of payment. However, the reams of paper had not been delivered. The delayed delivery was attributed to the breakout of war in Ukraine and the earthquake in Turkey, where the supplier had relocated. Therefore, the contract with the supplier has been lost. However, the committee finds the response by the controlling officer unacceptable and inadmissible, and highly questions the rationale of engaging a foreign company for the supply of bond paper, which is easily accessible locally. The committee further observes that the expected delivery period for the bond paper was within 4 to 6 weeks, which was before the breakout of the war in Ukraine. The committee therefore recommends that the matter be reported to the relevant investigative wings for further probing and possible prosecution. The controlling officer is further urged to enhance supervision at the center in order to avoid the recurrence of the query. A progress report on the matter will be awaited by the committee. Madam, before I conclude, let me also briefly comment on the committee's foreign benchmarking tour, which the committee was privileged to undertake to the Parliament of Uganda in order to, among other things, share experiences and best practices with regard to the mandate, structure, and operations of its counterpart committee at the National Assembly of Uganda. The committee observes that the 3 accountability committees in the Parliament of Uganda are referred to as public accounts committees. The committee therefore recommends that the offshoots of the public accounts committees at the National Assembly of Zambia, namely the Committee on Prasato Bodies and the Committee on Local Government Accounts, should be recognized as public accounts committees. In this regard, the standing orders should clearly define these accountability committees as follows: the Public Accounts Committee on the Accounts of the Republic. 2, the Public Accounts Committee on Prasato Bodies and other statutory institutions. And the Public Accounts Committee on Local Government Accounts. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank all stakeholders who participated in the production of the committee's report. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and apologies for that lapse earlier on. Madam Speaker, as I second the motion that has been ably moved by the chairperson of the committee, I shall only, Madam Speaker, comment on a few issues that were not covered in his speech. Madam Speaker, let me begin by commenting on the non-performing loans in the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission. Madam Speaker, your committee was sad and taken aback in the manner that the loans are handled at the CEEC, where your committee, Madam Speaker, learned that 283,198,666 monies that are locked in non-performing loans at CEC, and some of these loans, Madam Speaker, have been outstanding for over 14 years. Madam Speaker, this was a very big concern by your committee, and that something has to be done. Madam Speaker, your committee also noted that some of these loans should actually be pursued with the necessary vigor that is required. Madam Speaker, the committee also further observed that the Commission has no capacity to monitor some of these loans, and the beneficiaries do not actually seem to fully understand what is expected of them once they access the loans. Madam Speaker, there are some people who have accessed these loans, and the monitoring and evaluation actually do lack in following up these loans. The committee, Madam Speaker, directs the controlling officer to ensure that the war program is reviewed and further disciplinary action should be instituted on the officers who did not closely monitor the operations of the clients. Madam Speaker, the loans repayment on a monthly basis in accordance with the CEC credit manual and credit policy must also be adhered to. There is a lot of lapses in this area, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the committee further urges the controlling officer to ensure that the outstanding loans that are owed to CEC are recovered without further delay, and that the highlighted strategies yield the much needed results in order to ensure that the default rate for loans is actually reduced. Madam Speaker, let me also comment on the recapitalization of Tazara. Your committee, Madam Speaker, also observed with sadness that the Zambian government's lack of commitment to recapitalize Tazara is actually threatening the existence of this institution. The authority is lacking that attachment of a going concern. The lack of health working capital, Madam Speaker, actually makes it very difficult for the authority to procure the necessary inputs required to manufacture the concrete sleepers. As we are aware that the rail line so much, Madam Speaker, depends on these items. And this has actually affected the production capacity of the plant. Madam Speaker, your committee therefore calls upon the Secretary to the Treasury to urgently honor the government's financial obligation into Tazara. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, allow me, Madam Speaker, to join the mover of the motion to adopt the report of the committee in thanking you, Madam Speaker, for according us the opportunity to serve on this important committee. I also wish to thank the members of your committee for affording me the opportunity to second the motion. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Madam Speaker, my honorable colleague, Honorable Brian Kambita, has moved an important motion reflecting findings of the Auditor General and also scrutiny of a very careful committee resulting in this report, 254 pages. I wish to thank him. Let me also thank my honorable colleague, Honorable Chibuye, for ably seconding this motion. Madam Speaker, the committee has pointed out important issues relating to corporate governance as well as internal control mechanisms of the various entities that are under the Republic of Zambia. And when I heard my honorable colleague speak about those glaring control issues, I decided to structure my conversation into two. I'll just look at corporate governance as well, look at control environments. I think these are the issues that are causing problems in these institutions. Madam Speaker, if you go to page 213, and that's where I start my delivery, questionable appointment of a board chairperson at ZESCO. How can this even arise? How can you even have a situation where the appointment of a chairperson is questionable in an institution such as ZESCO? Madam Speaker, this is where the governance will go wrong. This is where all the failures of ZESCO will start. Listen to what follows. Failure to avail evidence of board assessment of performance. In the first place, there is a questionable appointment of a chairperson. What comes next is they are not able to put evidence together of the assessment of performance of the institution. Do you think that the people that fall below governance, who are falling within internal controls, will do proper things? This is why we have issues, contract management problems. This is why we're having issues that my honorable colleague raised there of, what was that? Non-performing loans. Because both governance and internal control operations are dead. Madam Speaker, questionable procurement of personal order vehicles at ZESCO. This shouldn't happen. You don't see this happening. A procurement of a motor vehicle is such a significant procurement. Why should an auditor even find that questionable? Poor governance at corporate level, Madam Speaker, starting with the instituting of the governance structure. I call upon the executive to ensure that as they institute governance structures in all these institutions, they must take care that at no point should these processes be questionable. Madam Speaker, let me quickly just talk about operational issues. And your committee raises issues of ratios, performance ratios. You know, the liquidity ratios, as well as capital ratios. And I take note of two. They talked about the assets, what was that? The current ratio, you know, which is a measurement of current liabilities and you know, current assets. And ZESCO records a very poor ratio. Now, if your current ratio, and in fact, your committee didn't go further to talk about the quick ratio, just talked about the current ratio. If this ratio is poor, then you'll be thinking, maybe let's move away from these operational issues and go to capital ratios. Maybe they are going to be concerned. But look at what is next. It's the gearing ratio. It is also poor. It is also poor, Madam Speaker. You can't have current ratios are poor, gearing ratios are poor. Where will you ever perform? What is ZESCO saying is the reason for this poverty in gearing ratio? They are saying it is because of the exchange rates. Now, you know that your contracts are in dollars, so you trade in dollars on a daily basis. Why aren't you talking about hedging of the exchange risk? Why are you using bad procedures to acquire resources? Instead of getting people who can assist you to hedge against the poor performance of the Kwacha. And there are so many methods you can use to do that, Madam Speaker. So many methods. Simple forward contracts. Simple. If you are looking for complicated derivatives, you can do so. Swaps. You can use swaps. You can use options. You can use futures. These, Madam Speaker, are extremely simple procedures, and I'm happy Honorable Dr. Msokotwane is here, the Minister of Finance. He knows about these simple hedging measures, Madam Speaker. Extremely simple hedging measures. But how can the exchange risk be the problem in a corporation such as ZESCO? How? Madam Speaker, I have a serious problem with these findings, and I do think that the executive must become serious. The executive should become serious not only in the institution of governance structures, but also in ensuring that internal controls function properly so that the Zambian people can attain maximum benefit from the existence of these corporations which they are funding at very high cost. Madam Speaker, these institutions belong to Zambians, and Zambians deserve better. We should now stop hearing about these glaring misappropriations of Zambian people's money. Madam Speaker, I wish to appreciate the moment.
Thank you. Just some guide as we debate. Let's also take into consideration the time frame that this report is talking about, so that we do not bring issues of today, 2023, because this issue went up to December 31st, 2021. No, it's just a guide to the whole House, not to you. Yeah. The Honorable Member for Bwana Mukubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to thank my honorable colleague, Honorable Kambita, who has moved this motion. And Madam Speaker, even as I speak, my colleague, Honorable Member of Parliament for Lunte, has highlighted a lot of issues pertaining to return on investment, gearing ratios, which he also culminates in how a certain entity is performing. But let me now just look at the other angle, which borders on weak internal controls, which has been highlighted by your committee. Madam Speaker, for a state-owned enterprise to perform properly, it needs to have strong internal controls, which also are supposed to be reviewed from time to time. If these controls are not adhered to, they culminate into issues of wasteful expenditure, poor financial performance, non-preparation of financial statements, because it entails that these entities are not properly supervised, either be by the board or people who are conferred with that mandate. Let me cite an example. A recapitalization of 547 million was done to various institutions such as Tazama, DBZ, and Tazara to ensure that even National Housing Authority. But all that money, Madam Speaker, needs to be monitored to ensure that their performance indicators, they produce annual reports and also their financial statements, which can be analyzed to ensure that some of these entities, yes, they are operating on a profit-based. But, Madam Speaker, none to that effect. That was done. Let me just quickly, before I delve into the CEC, we look at lack of performance indicators on their targets. CEC, Madam Speaker, did issue loans amounting to 283 million kwacha, and these have been cited as non-performing loans, which entails that these monies were given to Zambian citizens who have not paid back to ensure that others can have access to those funds, and also ensure that they improve some of these small and medium enterprises which they are running. So it's imperative that CEC also comes up with revised guidelines or to ensure that people, when they borrow the funds, they are able to pay back. They should improve on their repayment procedures to ensure that government funds are also paid back to that effect, to ensure that other citizens are able to benefit. Also, they failed to recover seed fund amounting to 30,291,660. Others, Madam Speaker, is pointing to lack of internal controls. And these anomalies, Madam Speaker, entails that probably we need to streamline and ensure that some of these state-owned enterprises are working on a profit base, not business as usual to that effect, because public funds are being wasted through such avenues. Madam Speaker, let me quickly comment on the Development Bank of Zambia, DBZ. The report, Madam Speaker, has highlighted a lot of glaring performance issues, such as high debt equity ratios and also depleting capital. And we are all alive to the fact that not too long ago, a few weeks ago, DBZ was taken over by the Bank of Zambia. And Madam Speaker, we don't want to see such occurrences moving forward. it's important that some of these institutions are properly streamlined to ensure that they perform accordingly in accordance with the stipulated guidelines of provision of financial statements, assessing their performance to see to it that it benefits the Zambian people. If you look at the case of DBZ, it issued a lot of loans, and these are non-performing loans, which they failed to recover from some of these companies, which now has culminated into depleting of their capital and also on their operations. Madam Speaker, I cannot just conclude without commenting on the issue of the ADAS contract, which was a contract which was contracted to construct some sheds for FRA. Madam Speaker, a lot of anomalies with that contract were cited, not only on the parastatal reports, but also for the other Public Accounts Committee report. It's important that this issue is pursued to ensure that these huge or colossal sums of money which have been given to some of these contractors, there's an assessment on their performance, on how also some of these contracts are performing. And not only that, Madam Speaker, it's also important that the executive, as they contract some of these works, they really look at the terms and conditions of some of these contracts.
Before the Honorable Member for Kaposhe goes out, Honorable Member, please don't break the rules of the House. The Honorable Member who is on the floor is debating, and you passed between the Honorable Member and myself, which is not allowed. Please, let's avoid doing that. Pardon? Thank you, the Honorable Member for Kaposhi. We know it's the last time. The Honorable Member on the floor may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I was stopped, I was just commenting on the ADAS contract, which this company was given a contract to contract sheds on behalf of FRA. Madam Speaker, my take on this issue, which has been highlighted by your committee, is to ensure that even as we give contract to some of these companies, we look at the terms and conditions which are in the contract to ensure that government is not disadvantaged to that effect, to ensure that we are on a win-win situation to that effect. Madam Speaker, the report has highlighted a lot of glaring issues which pertains to accountability. It's imperative that the executive looks at some of these issues and ensure that they are mitigated to that effect, to ensure that public resources are safeguarded. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support this motion.
Thank you. We are going to balance the voices on the floor. I'll now move on to the right. The Honorable Member for Kanyama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity that you have given me to add a voice to the motion which is laid before your table. Madam Speaker, this report is progressive, and it has brought out a number of pertinent issues pertaining to management of these institutions, procurement, and a number of issues that go with a credible institution, like the issues that is being discussed here. Madam Speaker, this report should be an eye-opener to the New Dawn government. It is actually an eye-opener. Why am I saying so? Where we're coming from, I think if you look at this report, is up to 31st December 2021. So everything that has happened is happened outside our 18 area. So,
Honorable Member, I think the New Dawn came in 2021, September, yes. so it's not totally that UPNG was not included in 2021. Let's just put our facts well. We'll know where to put in this government or that government. Honorable Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well guided. Why I mentioned 18, we have the same pitch, but 18 is a portion of your playing ground. Now, Madam Speaker, what I've just noticed from what has been, first I would want to thank the mover and the seconder of the motion for the job well done. We are looking at an institution. Each and every institution, Madam Speaker, has got rules, guidelines, legal framework that governs the conduct or direction of a particular entity. And how do we measure success of an institution? It's through the rules, the policies that are governing that. If we tend, those of us, the operatives, and I'm talking about the employees themselves, if they want to go around the rules that are governing whatever process that that institution has put in place to actualize that which he wants to achieve, then for me that is a recipe for corruption. Madam Speaker, you cannot love to see what is being brought out, the huge sums of no money that has been lost because of lack of foreign procedure. You can't. Procurement procedures, there are guidelines that needs to be followed. Thereafter, once the guidelines are put in place, there must be enforcers. In the event someone or an officer goes against what is laid down, then enforcers needs to come and direct. Too much power is dangerous, Madam Speaker. Where someone realizes that there's no one who is checking on that, or on whatever is happening, someone can do whatever he wants to do. And for me, looking at what is coming out of the report, it's because there was lack of enforceability. There was no one to enforce. It was laissez-faire. Anyone who ever wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, he would do. Which reminds me of issues of organized crimes. We may look at it on a face value that maybe is one individual who is perpetrating for these issues. But if we investigate down, you realize that even those people that we are not trying to align them to the operations, you find they are involved. And this is the more reason why, if you look at corporate governance, like my colleague has put it, MP for Lunte, it was totally broken. Who checks the checker? So even that one who is mandated to check on other people's works, he must be checked somehow, somewhere, by someone. By that, we are providing checks and balances. So, to let an institution operate outside the laid down procedures, Madam Speaker, that is very dangerous. And that's more reason why I'm saying it's an eye-opener to the UPNG government. Because I believe the same people who committed these atrocities are the same people that we are still using into procurement, administration, and any other wing of a department. So, if we don't open our eyes as UPNG government, then I think we'll fall into the same ditch. So, Madam Speaker, I think in conclusion, I don't want to waste much of your time. As UPNG, we need to make sure that we clean the mess. Those that will be found wanting, they should just leave us in peace so that we can clean the mess. And those that would want to influence others into doing what needs, does not to be done should be also, guided. So, in conclusion, Madam Speaker, I urge...
Honorable Member, the word messy and parliamentary, just find another word for it. Withdraw it?
I've withdrawn, Madam Speaker, and I'm sorry to have used that term. Ways.
Thank you.
Okay, I would say the unwanted, those who are committing acts that are unwanted, I think that sits well. So, Madam Speaker, all what I'm urging the employment agencies, they should look at people to be in various positions on merit. And once we embrace that, I think we expect a healthy work result. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've gone through this report, although, Madam Speaker, within a short period. Indeed, we should be concerned, Madam Speaker, by what is in this report. Let me commend the chairperson, able chairperson, Honorable Kambita, for and your committee for coming up with such a good report. Madam Speaker, I'm at pains. We actually come here and debate these reports. Thereafter, so what? As parliamentarians, we highlight all the atrocities that are committed by the agents of the executive. In some instances, including the executive. Thereafter, so what? And Zambians have to question our relevance, Madam Speaker. These are serious issues. People are suffering out there. People are unable to afford even a meal. But look at the figures that are being mentioned in these reports. $50 million interest. And we are here debating. Afterwards, we'll leave this house, Madam Speaker. A month will pass. It will become 6 months, a year, and we live a normal life as human beings. Madam Speaker, no wonder I want to right now urge the Minister of Justice, bring amendments. I know he's complaining. Bring amendments. If it means touching the supreme law of the land, let us do that so that we stiffen the laws. People should be able to fear public resources. At the moment, I will not even be surprised that such oversight institutions like the Auditor General might even be in problems. The reason is very simple. We've got weaker laws. And it is the duty of this House to pass legislation that will deter would-be offenders. Not only that, it should also be able to compel those who are supposed to act and they are not acting. This report by now, Madam Speaker, before we leave this House, we should be able to see people being locked up. That's how it should be, Honorable Minister for Home Affairs. $50-something million in interest. Madam Speaker, I went further to research which individuals were behind. And I discovered that some of them have been appointed to a very high-profile positions by the New Dawn government. We are restrained from commenting or mentioning names.
by our standing orders. They are not here to defend themselves. But for once, let us save the people of this country. Leadership is not about us showing our influent lifestyles. It should be about us making the lives of our people better. If someone was walking, tomorrow is actually owning a bicycle, then we should take pride into that. That one who is now using a motorbike in Western Province, tomorrow is owning a taxi. It means we are succeeding as leaders. Not what we are seeing. Madam Speaker, how can you justify a ream of paper to be bought from Ukraine? Citizens are there listening. You buy a bond of paper from Ukraine, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister for Justice, we are ready to make cabinet outside Parliament. I know those of you who are members of Parliament, you wouldn't want to hear this. But for me, I can hear Minister of Environment protesting, Madam Speaker, and he protect me, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the only solution to these problems, this unicameral system that we have as a country, is not helping us. Can we have a cabinet that will come outside Parliament? That is the only time that will make stiffer laws. At the moment, we fear. You can imagine you make a law that touches on your wrongdoing. It will not happen. So for me, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister of Justice, bring amendment to the Constitution so that we remove members of Parliament being appointed ministers. You see the laws that we make as parliamentarians. We make perfect laws. And these that are doing these wrongs, they will not do them. So in conclusion, Madam Speaker, on behalf of the people of Chama South, who want Chasato Chikwa Road to be done, and 59 million or 50-something million dollars, not kwacha, is being paid in interest somewhere, when actually it can do all the roads in Chama South. We want to see that the Minister of Home Affairs takes action. If he can't, the people of Zambia are watching. We'll keep reminding them. 2026 is very near. We'll tell them that these people are unfit to fight corruption. Remove them. We want you to fight this past wrongdoing, your own wrongdoing, thereby setting an agenda for future corruption. That is what we want to see. Not what we are seeing, which has been highlighted in this report. I'm actually supporting your report, Madam Speaker, with a very heavy heart. And I await for action to be taken. I submit.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to correct the impression that nothing happens after presenting or debating these reports in the House, actually there's something that is being done through the action taken reports and the Treasury reports. Then the executive, we believe they are taking these things seriously. As they are listening, that's why they even respond. So let's not think that nothing will happen after debating or presenting these reports to the House. Let's give people some hope out there. Thank you. The next member is the Honorable Member for Nkana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have even lost count of what I would have wanted to submit because I am actually shocked at the revelations that have been made. And this is not the only revelation, Madam Speaker, that has been made. in regards to these financial crimes that are being committed almost on a daily basis. Perhaps at the expense of not sounding monotonous or repetitive, allow me to just touch on just one or two issues. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker,
you are debating through the chair. Don't involve your friends into your debate.
The Chama South has moved from there to there making noise. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the assurance you've given us that something is being done. But what the public, Madam Speaker, expect maybe is a follow-up or a follow-through of these activities. If a report is given in Parliament, the public is expecting to have a trail of what is the next stage, what is the next stage. I'll cite one very familiar case. I think you are aware, Madam Speaker, the rock leaf. It is not part of this report, but in this House, we discussed a scandal that was called the rock leaf. That this country has unfortunately not heard anything about in regards to pursuing the culprits in that scandal. Honorable Milupi would agree with me that Churuma Road just needs about $7 million, thereabout. Here we are talking about $50+ million that people have made this country to lose. Now, what I think is a problem are our priorities, Madam Speaker. Today, I want to confess that the law enforcement agencies are very active. But the challenge I have, Madam Speaker, is that they are pursuing what I would call wrong agendas. Where I come from, Madam Speaker, we are very hard-working men. We call them the Jerabos. Today, as we speak, they are in the bush looking for low grades. In the evening, they'll go and sell. They'll build a house. Many of them, as we speak today, they have their properties seized, repossessed, in the name of they cannot account. These are very hard-working young men who have hustled their way through life. That is where we have focused our attention. But look at the revelations in this report. $50 million. Bond paper worth millions of dollars being bought from Ukraine. Those are the reports. The reports of the action taken, Madam Speaker, is what should be exciting us. The report of what has happened to the one who made the swap, called the rock leaf. We lost millions of dollars. That is what should be exciting us, Madam Speaker. That is why, for me, I complain. What is our priorities? Who should do this job for us? Because it looks like our priorities are misplaced. A lot of times, we like to celebrate when we hear politician A has been followed, politician B. The real culprits are the ones who are in that report. And I can bet my life, in that report, it's not the politicians. It's these so-called technocrats who are defrauding this country of millions of dollars. But we play almost a blind eye or a deaf ear to these happenings because they are not politicians. Madam Speaker, our priorities are wrong. Not long ago, I did make a calculation. We have 14 tons of sugilite in Kabwe today as we speak. The basic research I did gave me $1 billion worth of sugilite. Anyone can challenge me. But Madam Speaker, when we bring all these things, there's no action. There's no action. I know Bazanama is used to the market, is making noise. There are no actions, Madam Speaker. That is what worries me.
The Honorable Member from Kana, I think the tendency is growing. Please don't involve your other members into your debate.
Madam Speaker, he likes commenting. I know he's used to the market in Sokone, but this is Parliament, Madam Speaker.
No. Please just be focused. Don't mind about the comments outside, because your people from Kana are watching and listening to you. Please, can you be focused? Don't involve other members.
Okay. I will not go there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the day before yesterday, I read a report the Development Bank of Zambia had given out huge sums of money in loans that have not been recovered. The report, Madam Speaker, have you heard?
All the honorable members on the right, we want to listen to the debate.
I can take him on, Madam Speaker. I'm capable.
No, please, I think let's try to be focused. The people are listening out there. Let's try to avoid interfering with the debater on the floor. Honorable member, you may continue.
Madam Speaker, I read a report about the Development Bank of Zambia. Today, this report has brought the issue of CEEC and their failure to follow up these loans that are given out. All these things, Madam Speaker, comes to the same things. Why are we failing to harness these resources? And when we find ourselves in a position where we know this person could have conducted themselves in a manner that has defrauded this country, what actions are we taking? Who is not doing their job? In here, Madam Speaker, every day in, every day out, we debate, like my other colleagues said, we bring out all these reports. And today, interestingly, Madam Speaker, there's a bigger parliament out there who follows almost every other conversation we are having here. And they put on record every revelation that are being made. The question they are asking us when we go out, what actions have been taken in relation to these revelations that we are making? So I want to conclude by asking these questions. Who is going to help us? Who is going to ensure that when somebody steals, they recover that money? Who is going to ensure that we realign our priorities in terms of fighting these grafts? When are we going to stop sensationalization? For the appeasement of power that be, we follow things that don't even make sense. Somebody who would have been selling tomatoes, they build a house, those are the ones we are pursuing. But the grand masters of theft are being left. Some of them, as the member was debating before me, are even being reappointed. Madam Speaker, I don't want to use the word that you stopped me from using the other time, suggesting that somebody could have bewitched. I will not use that word because you censured me. But I seriously think something is wrong with us as a country. Because we have all these things at our disposal, all these resources. The sewage right, the gold. Today, Madam Speaker, the gold is going free, flying from consumption. Today, as we speak, gold is flying in Northwestern, in planes. But here we are, even wondering how we are going to pay our 14 billion debt, Madam Speaker. Who put us in this position? Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you so much. The honorable member for Siavonga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make a few comments. First and foremost, I want to thank the chairperson, the seconder, and the committee itself for the wonderful report they have presented. Madam Speaker, I want to take the debate for Honorable Gafwaya as mine, Honorable Gafwaya and Honorable Mungandu as mine. First and foremost, everything that we are talking about starts from governance. The appointment of these people that were entrusted to run these institutions, that's where the issue is. And we are aware that in the constitution of the PF, they had what they used to call, there is a clause actually, enshrined that anybody that should be appointed in those positions should be somebody that can dance to the song of Donunari Vase. So that's where the problem was. It was not about qualifications. It was about the party.
Honorable member. The honorable member on the floor, you are bringing new information into the report. I haven't seen that portion that you are talking about in the report. It's not there. Honorable member, please, can you be focused to what is contained in this? It's a big report. I'm sure you can find something to talk about, which the people of Zambia will really appreciate your input. So, Honorable Member, with that guide, please stick to the report, not talking about other
Thank you
political
very
parties.
much, Madam Speaker, but I'm receiving messages and calls that I'm debating very well. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what we are talking about is the gallery irregularities that were happening during the PF regime. This report, the people that were presiding these institutions, Madam Speaker, were appointed by our colleagues. And there is no way we run away from that. We should not shy away from confronting the truth so that we correct ourselves. Because the President said we are going to fight corruption of yesterday, today, and the future. So we will go back and dig what they have been doing. Madam Speaker, how can somebody, when the President was saying these people are supplying air and they are paid for that, today we have heard from that report, a ream of paper. Somebody has paid all the monies. They will float a contract and allow their colleagues to bid. They give them, then they will start dilly-dallying in paying them. After a few months, they turn around and say, no, can I have interest? We have dragged me. And they get that man $52 million. And this is the money which you used to see people sleeping on, dancing on, doing all sorts of things. From that, because we had no governance, the appointments that our colleagues were making was not based on merit.
Honorable Member, there is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I reluctant rise on point of order pursuant to Standing Order 65 1B. Madam Speaker, you have guided the Honorable Member who is on the floor, and apparently a chairperson of another accounts committee on local government, who is very well aware of how we work on these reports. You have guided, Madam Speaker. Is he in order to continue on politicking on a report which has got facts, recommendations, thoroughly done by your committee on parastatal bodies, and is in order to continue on that trajectory? A chairperson of another accounting committee who is supposed to highlight issues as they are contained in here, contextualize them so that the people out there can benefit from his discourse, is in order to continue on that trajectory. I seek your serious guidance.
Thank you. The Honorable Member on the floor was guided to say, please, can we stick to the report? And this report was for 2021. I think there's a lot that the government can learn from it so that a lot of things can be corrected. So having read this report, you know what went wrong. Is it possible that you can maybe focus on this report so that the people will get something out of your debate? So the Honorable Member, I'm very sure you've been guided. Please focus on the report on the floor. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, I'm guided. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, at times you feel very bad because just like my colleague is, the person that raised the point of order alluded to, what we are trying to look at is where is this problem coming from, and how would we go around and be able to do the right thing that the nation will appreciate, that will benefit everyone. How do we do that? But if today I'm appointing my children because they are my children without qualifications, the result is what we are debating this afternoon, madam. And that is simply what I'm talking. I'm not politicizing, but I'm saying there should be something wrong.
Honorable Member, I'm sure the guide was very clear. I even mentioned that the things that are in this report, they were gotten from the year up to 2021 December. So let's help the country to perform better or to iron out some of the problems that we saw in the report. can we be specific and focused to the report?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I don't know how to debate. I'm almost failing to debate because if I'm constrained to say what happened yesterday. All right, let me come back to UPND. UPND, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity not to take the route that PF took. And this is the route that took them out. So as UPND government, there is no way, Madam Speaker, I would accept somebody to go and get a ream of paper from Ukraine. There is no way, Madam Speaker, I would give out money to go and construct sheds, storage sheds, and then they are not done, and we should keep quiet. No, we must mention. Because even in the Bible, they mention about Satan. He's the one that caused those problems.
No,
So
Honorable Member, those are the things that we are supposed to mention. They are there in the report. What you've just mentioned is there in the report, and that is what we want you to bring out. The issues that are in the report. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Those that are stealing are children of the devil. So we want to make sure that today we preach the right message, and the right message takes this government, to be a very good government, the government that is going to make sure that it looks after the resources of this nation and benefit the ordinary people out there. Out there, the students and everybody, even the students, the meal allowances were withdrawn. And a lot of things happened. But there were no managers. That's what we are getting from the report. It's because nobody could do that. And I want to echo what my colleagues have said, that we need the law that is going to make sure that these atrocities, this carelessness is followed. And we want to ask the campus of the law enforcement agencies to follow and direct us to where this money is. And we will religiously follow that campus and get to that route and get to that person, get to that institution until we get that which belongs to the people of Zambia. We will not relent. Unfortunately, we will not do that. Because once we allow such things to continue, Madam Speaker, then we will not have the nation. Just like my colleagues have debated. A few days ago, is it 2 days or 3 days ago, when we heard that one bank is going under. Why should things happen like that? It's because there is no management. And the president, in opposition then, I remember mentioning that he said, actually Zambia is very rich, but the person that is not there is the manager. No driver. There is no driver, autopilot. And I want to urge the government of the UPND, the cabinet, to make sure that we drive this nation. We want prudence. But in doing so, we want to make sure that our people are able to benefit that which should be given to them. Madam Speaker, these people, I'm sorry because every time we would say I'm being political. I'm not being political, but the PF government made us to be where we are today. This report is from PF. It's for PF. It's as simple as so that we never appointed the people that were the controlling officers in those institutions. In 2021, they are not our people. We found them and we found these problems. And this is the reason as to why time and again we are going back. We are going back. These people were so excited, very careless. And this is the reason as to why they are failing even to pay. You imagine they got a loan to recapitalize Zambia Railways. Did they do that?
No. They shared.
Did they do that?
No.
And they are here.
Honorable Member, don't involve your colleagues. The Honorable Member on the floor, please don't involve your colleagues in the debate. It's your debate alone. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. But I'm sure, you know, honorable ministers, the front bench of the UPND, are you listening? You are listening carefully?
No,
we are listening. That will make you stay. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. There is an indication for a point of order.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the honorable member from Siavonga, who has just finished debating, he has made mention that they got money to work on the Zambia levies, and they got money, they have used that money, and they are here without pointing who are they. Standing order number 65, Madam Speaker, demands evidence. Is it in order to insinuate that the people that ate money for Eurobonds are here? When he very much knows that that is government money. I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member who was on the floor did not mention names. However, the Honorable Member in future, he should consider that this House does not debate ourselves. But the fact that he didn't mention names, he didn't break any rule. Because what is wrong is to mention names, but just to guide him that let's try as much as possible to avoid debating ourselves. And then to guide the member who was on the floor again, I had guided Honorable Member to say when you are on the floor, you are not supposed to involve or bring in your colleagues in your debate. So please, can you avoid that? Because you were actually out of order to do that, especially that I had guided to say don't involve your colleagues in your debate. It was not a rally, it was a debate. The next one, the Honorable Member for Mufulira.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I would like to just thank the mover of the motion and the seconder for this very clear report that has brought out a number of issues which, Madam Speaker, let me just go through. In summary, the observations from the auditors after having gone through these parastatal companies. The auditor's comments, Madam Speaker, in summary, border on non-preparation of financial statements, non-adherence to procurement procedures, wasteful expenditure, poor financial performance, internal control weaknesses. Madam Speaker, this is not the first time that the Office of the Auditor General is producing a report on parastatals, and these issues, I can say that even before I came to this House, these are the same things that I've been hearing about. During the time the MMD was in government, during the time that the PF was in government, and even now, Madam Speaker, because as you have rightly put it, as you have rightly guided, this report is looking at the financial years ending 2021. Madam Speaker, these are perennial issues. And the problem we have is, what action do we take to address these challenges? And that is why, for me, my discourse will border on governance issues. The PF government found these problems when they formed government. And the government then, the PF government, Madam Speaker, made a very bold decision, I would say biting the bullet, by, through this Parliament, enacting the Public Finance Management Act, number 1 of 2018. Madam Speaker, that act, if we need anything that can fight corruption, if we need anything, a law that can fight financial misconduct, that can bring order in public financial management. It's the act that we already have, the Public Finance Management Act, passed in 2018. It has everything. These problems the Auditor General has raised, Madam Speaker, just border on the conduct of the controlling officers and the supervisors of these controlling officers. Because for a long time, even after this punitive law, which is even in place now, misconduct has continued. And the essence of having audits carried out is to look at the performance in the past and learn lessons so that for the future, these mistakes are not repeated. So that is why, even as we sit today, especially for our colleagues on your right, should not take pride in saying this was the PF. No. What lessons are there to be learned? Because these problems have been there even during UNIP days. Probably one of the campaign messages the MMD did in 1991 was to say we're going to fight corruption. The UNIP government was removed. So these are not the things that we are saying now we have the UPND or the new government, they are gone. They are not gone. What is needed is to enforce the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act. That is what we need. Section 11 of this Act, Madam Speaker, provides the responsibilities of the controlling officers, including providing annual audited financial statements. But the Auditor General here is saying, even in 2022, some institutions had not done their audits for 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. They are still there. This is a problem. And if we don't enforce, because in the Act, it's very clear what to do to a controlling officer or any institution who fails to produce the annual audited financial statements. But if we do not enforce the punitive measures, failure to produce the audited financial report, Madam Speaker, according to the Act, is a financial misconduct. And the provisions are there. Anyone found with financial misconduct can either be suspended, dismissed, including prosecution, if you read Part 4 of the Act. But do we do these things? We should not just point corruption when there is a politician involved. Even the law enforcement agencies should not just be excited because this MP or this minister has been mentioned or linked, when misconduct is going on day in, day out by the people that are managing these parastatals. How many have we learned that they've been suspended or dismissed or even prosecuted? We only become sensational when there is a politician that has been mentioned. Meanwhile, the water under the ground is flowing. The same misconduct is continuing. Governments will come, governments will go. As long as we have this engine of the civil service who are not facing up to the consequences of misconduct, the Zambian people will keep blaming the politicians, they will keep voting in and voting out, but the real culprits remain in the offices. The Act is very clear, Madam Speaker, very, very clear. Anyone who is misconducting himself, corruption, awarding contests, all these challenges that we have read, by now, we should be hearing, because these people are still in the offices, even now, they are there. And they were there. PF found them. Madam Speaker, PF was not a government that went on dismissing wantonly anyone
Honorable
because they
member
came
on the floor.
from the MMD. No.
Honorable member.
They were civil servants.
Order, honorable member. I think you are trying to move away from the report. Can you please come back to the report so that we make progress? Let's move. Come back to the report.
Madam Speaker, all I'm saying, and in good faith, is that the civil service has always been there and will continue to be there. And if this government thinks that by removing the politicians who were there under PF, everything has become better, they are misleading themselves. Because what we need is to ensure, as I repeat, everyone found responsible for all these findings in the Auditor General's report must be held accountable. And we don't go about fishing the cases or which law to use. The PF government left a very good piece of law, the Public Finance Management Act. Everything is there, Madam Speaker. Let us learn lessons, let us implement. In that way, the next reports that will come will be different. Otherwise, if we keep laughing that this is during the PF and PF, even next year another report will come pointing out the same defects, the same problems. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll listen to the lady, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the interest of time, I will not finish all the minutes. However, I just wanted to underscore a few points. First of all, let me make a disclaimer that I used to be the vice chairperson in this committee in the previous tenure that we had. And I think it is also important to make sure that our listeners understand that this report runs from January up to December 2021. That's not an argument. And some of the cases, Madam Speaker, they go as back as 2018, 2019, 2020, an issue which we discussed that this is not the best way to proceed. Now, we cannot make progress without looking at the past. And my colleague has well articulated the Public Financial Management Act that was brought in, but alas, it wasn't actualized or utilized and implemented. But this was under the former, I want to say UPND, but the PF government. That is the truth. How do you allow Development Bank of Zambia to give non-performing loans to people who are politically connected? How do you allow that? Because I was in this committee and I've read the reports. So, Madam Speaker, when we call the PF government, it's not trying to run away or try to think that we may not be caught up in this issue, but we need to call a spade, and this was under the PF government where we see a lot of irregularities, and the UPN government is saying we will try not to go in this direction. The issue of non-performing loans was so deep-rooted that people were given loans against a very cheap collateral. How do you borrow millions of kwachas when all you're using is a house, for example, in Kembe Constituency? It doesn't make sense. The amount of money you are borrowing should be equal to what the amount of your collateral should be closer enough to the loan that you are borrowing so that you can repay. Another issue, Madam Speaker, that I want to add, that we need to ensure that we implement. It's the many years that are in the backlog before the auditor's report comes here. People would have already aborted. Those who have been found wanting, they would have already gone. And these were the challenges that we found. That many of these controlling officers or some of the PSCs and other directors or people who were involved, they were already gone. So how do we continue to run these parastatals if we are going to allow a situation where the report comes maybe 3 years later, 2 years later? This is something that I think we, the UPND government, should learn from it. The issue of controlling officers, Madam Speaker, I think what is important, which has been repeated by some of my colleagues, and also something that we need to actualize, is to ensure that the internal controls are stiffened and that internal audits are done even before the external auditors come. Without this, we'll forever find ourselves wanting as a government or as a country. Lastly, Madam Speaker, it is the issue where you found that even those who were told to pay back the money or they were found to be wanting, they were never detained or nothing was done to them. And that is why the other debaters kept saying, now people are going after those who are politically aligned to finish off PF. PF is already finished by itself. This is just to ensure that the very things that you are saying we are not doing begin to be done, Madam Speaker. Because if we do not follow up, those who took, I don't know what to say because stealing is unparliamentary. What word can I use? Who plundered the resources of these parastatals, they are followed up. Then will be blamed as UPND government. That is why when you are found wanting, you will pay for what you did. Whether you are politically connected, whether you're in the previous government, whether you are a controlling officer, this is what the new Dawn government is doing because His Excellency, the President Hakainde Hichilema says, no one will be left if they are found wanting. Madam Speaker, I wish I could go on, but the point is, this report sits when PF government was in charge and they failed this country. And that's why they were voted out. And I hope the UPND government will do better so that 50 years from now, UPND will still be a party of choice. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister to respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to thank the chairperson of the committee and the entire committee for a report that is well done, and I wish to support it. I also want to thank them for the recommendations that they've made, and having brought before this House and demonstrated clearly that this is a committee that is there to hold the government responsible. I want to emphasize a point that the last debater made, because, Madam Speaker, I think earlier on in the debate, it appeared that people were raising pressure or insinuating that this government is the one that is presiding over these failures and doing little or nothing about it. Madam Speaker, the committee is on the audit that was done at the end of 31st December 2021, end of December 2021. On top of that, Madam Speaker, the audit covers the financial years 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. This very clearly shows that, in fact, most of this, what we are discussing now, are things that happened a long time ago, well before this government came into office. Madam Speaker, the government takes note of the recommendations by the committee and will closely study these recommendations with the aim of improving the operations of statutory corporations and state-owned enterprises so that they can contribute positively to the economy. Let me pick out a few salient issues out of the report. The first one, the report on the Development Bank of Zambia. Madam Speaker, if there is an institution that is a good example of abuse, the Development Bank of Zambia is one of those. Madam Speaker, you recall that part of the money that was obtained from the Eurobonds was used to recapitalize Development Bank of Zambia. Today, DBZ is no longer there. And one of the reasons for that is obviously people who were politically exposed were favored. And partly, many of those people also are the ones who are failing to pay back what they borrowed. So, Madam Speaker, the issue of governance in these institutions is clearly very important, and indeed, DPZ is a good example of that. The Bank of Zambia now is taking possession, and in the next few weeks, we shall outline the way forward for DBZ. But clearly, I think one of the solutions is to make sure that any similar institution in the future will be protected from political exposure. Madam Speaker, this government is determined that every single cent that was borrowed from DBZ must be paid back. Every single cent that was borrowed must be paid back. Because this is money that belongs to the government, to the people of Zambia. It cannot be privatized by individuals, especially those who were in a privileged position to be able to borrow by using their influence. Madam Speaker, the government, I think the second example I was going to give is, maybe I don't really, okay. Let me talk about procurement. I think this report is outlined very clearly that there's been a lot of wrong things going under procurement, and the example given in the report of somebody procuring ordinary printing paper for huge amounts of money makes very sad reading. So as a result of that, Madam Speaker, government is at a very advanced stage of revising the Public Procurement Act. Hopefully, in the next sitting, we should be able to table that. And I urge colleagues here, as that bill comes on the floor, let's make sure that we deal with the issues of abuse of institutions. Madam Speaker, a colleague here on the floor raised the question. We are always debating, we are always talking, but at the end, nothing happens. And I think, Madam Speaker, you partly provided the answer. You said that there's an action taken in the report and all those technical details that we know here in Parliament. But on top of that, to the question, what happens when there's been wrongdoing? I think you appreciate, Madam Speaker, that this government has not folded its arms. This government has been working very hard trying to identify all the wrong things, financial crimes that were committed in the past. This is why you've heard so many people being invited for interviews, some of them being arrested, some of them under prosecution. It's part of the issue of responding to the question, what happens after these revelations have been made? The third thing, Madam Speaker, is that when these actions are taken, colleagues now twist things around. They say these things is about ethnic cleansing, ethnic targeting. A colleague here on the floor was even saying, why is it that you are not following the issues in the report, but in the meantime, you are following up those who have nice houses, for 5 cars, and so forth? Madam Speaker, the answer is that these two things are connected. Yeah. The two things are connected because money obtained illicitly ultimately end up in some kind of assets. So, you can't say you are ignoring the audit reports but pursuing people with their properties. The two are connected. So, colleagues, as we move forward, if we are really committed to the fight against these vices, let's allow the law enforcement agencies to do their work professionally. Let them investigate. If no one is found with a case, they will release them. And the good thing these days is that those who are under accusation, they are treated like human beings. In the past, those who were under accusation, they would end up in remand for days and days, under horrific conditions. Under horrific conditions. So these days, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think it's very clear that those who are accused are treated humanely, and let's give the investigating agencies to do their work professionally. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Zambezi East wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, I would like to individually and severally thank the honourable members.
Member. Order. As the time is 1840 hours, I interrupt the proceedings and business stands adjourned. Day for resumption of business. The Minister.
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
Business to resume tomorrow. The House. Is now adjourned.
Into live parliamentary debates that have since come to a close. Be sure to make a date with us tomorrow, starting at 14:30 hours. Time now to have a recap of business that has been transacted on the floor of the House, starting at 14:30 hours. Madam Speaker, from the House, that in the absence of our honour, to other government, appointed leader of government business, starting today, Tuesday, 25th July. 2023 until further notice.
Thereafter, Madam Speaker did acquaint the House with the presence in the Speaker's gallery of 2 officers from the Austrian Parliamentary Budget Office. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, received and warmly welcomed the visitors. Madam Speaker did make another announcement in which she informed the House that as part of its planning and budgeting process for the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure frameworks and the 2024 national budget, the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation has requested all honourable members of Parliament to submit 5 proposed water and sanitation inventions in their respective constituencies. The submissions, Madam Speaker said the submissions should be sent to the Journals and Table Office Department by close of business on Friday, 28th July 2023.
After those announcements, Madam Speaker did render a ruling on a point of order raised on Thursday, 29th June 2023 by Mr. R.K.H. Totela, Member of Parliament for Pambashe Constituency, against Honorable Esma Sebo, MP, Minister of Health, for allegedly imputing improper motives against him. In his point of order, Mr. R.K.H. Totela, Member of Parliament, explained that the Honorable Minister had said that he was imputing wrong motives by stating that the government was distributing wrong medicines for administration in hospitals. He added that he had merely quoted information contained in the report of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters. He therefore asked whether the Honourable Minister of Health was in order to accuse him of suggesting that the government was distributing wrong medicines when in fact he was merely quoting information given to the committee by the hospital administrators.
Madam Speaker stated that the point of order raised the following issues. First, a member imputing any improper motives on another member. And second, a member's duty to ensure that the information he or she provides to the House is factual and verifiable. Madam Speaker further said that in studying the matter, she had recourse to the verbatim record of the statement by the Honourable Minister of Health on Tuesday, 29th June 2023, in order to ascertain whether she made any statement that imputed any improper motive on Mr. R.K.H. Totela, Member of Parliament.
From the verbatim record, it is evident that Honourable Minister of Health, in responding to Mr. R.K.H. Totela MP's question, stated that his question was a completely new one, which would require a specific question to be asked. She explained that Mr. R.K.H. Totela MP's assertion may not have been factual because issues regarding changes in drug administration were based on WHO guidelines. At no point did the Honourable Minister impute any improper motive on Mr. R.K.H. Totela MP. Therefore, the Honourable Minister of Health did not impute any improper motives on Mr. R.K.H. Totela MP. Consequently, the Honourable Minister of Health was not out of order.
And in raising his point of order, Mr. R.K.H. Totela MP submitted that his assertions were contained in the report of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters on public procurement in Zambia. Madam Speaker had recourse to the report, and a careful study of the report revealed that it did not contain any observation that the government was supplying wrong medicine, and that it also did not contain any recommendation by hospital administrators that the wrong painkillers